The lights in the briefing room cast long shadows across the polished metal table. Captain Lisa Blake stood at the front of the room, her uniform crisp and clean. Around the table sat officers from 7 different alien species, all part of the Galactic Coalition fleet. Their eyes watched her as she pointed to the star map floating above the table. "The humans have been running for 6 months now," Lisa said. Her voice carried confidence that filled the room. "Our intelligence shows they are trapped in the Kepler 442 system. No way out. No reinforcements coming. Lieutenant Vextal from EOI." The Harani species clicked his mandibles together. This was how his people showed agreement. "Captain Blake, the humans fight like children. No order, no discipline. They will surrender when they see our fleet." The other officers nodded. Commander Orthwan, a tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms, tapped the table with 1 finger. "In my experience, primitive species always give up when faced with superior forces. The humans are no different." Lisa smiled. The Coalition had been fighting Earth's Colonial Defense Force for 18 months. Every battle report showed the same thing. Human ships moved in strange patterns. Their weapons were old and simple. Their tactics made no sense to trained military minds. In the corner of the room sat Commander Zethkar. He was old, even by Vrek standards. His gray skin was marked with scars from dozens of battles. His 3 eyes rarely blinked, and he said nothing during most meetings. Other officers respected him but found him strange. He had been fighting wars since before most of them were born. "The humans lost their main fleet at Proxima Station," Lisa continued. "What's left are colony ships and a few escort vessels. Our scouts count maybe 30 ships total. We have over 200. Jake Morrison shifted in his seat. He was the only human in the room, a former officer who had defected from Earth's forces 6 months ago. His brown hair was cut short in military style, but his eyes held worry that the others could not understand. "Captain," Jake said, raising his hand, "I think we should be more careful. Humans don't give up easily, even when things look bad." Several officers made sounds of dismissal. Lieutenant Vextal's mandibles clicked faster, which meant he was annoyed. "Commander Morrison, you worry too much. Your people are brave, yes, but bravery cannot win against impossible odds." Lisa held up her hand for silence. She respected Jake's experience, but the evidence was clear. "Commander Morrison, I understand your concerns, but look at the data. Human ships have been retreating for months. They avoid direct combat. This is not the behavior of a confident enemy." The holographic display showed the Kepler 442 system. 3 planets orbited a yellow star much like Earth's sun. Long-range sensors showed human ships clustered around a large asteroid field between the 2nd and 3rd planets. The ships were not moving. They seemed to be waiting. "What are they doing there?" asked Commander Orthwan. His 4 arms gestured at the display. "Why do they sit still? It makes no tactical sense." Jake looked at the display more carefully. Something about the formation bothered him, but he could not say what. "Maybe they're planning something." "Planning what?" Lieutenant Vextal's voice carried amusement. "They have nowhere to run. No weapons that can hurt our shields. What could they possibly plan?" Lisa touched a control, and the display zoomed in on the human fleet. The ships were arranged in a loose circle around one large asteroid. Some of the vessels were clearly damaged. Burn marks scarred their hulls. A few showed signs of recent repairs. "Our intelligence suggests they might be conducting some kind of ceremony," Lisa said. "Human culture includes many strange rituals. Perhaps they are preparing to surrender with honor." This made sense to most of the alien officers. Many species had traditions about honorable defeat. It was better than fighting a hopeless battle. Commander Zethkar finally spoke. His voice was quiet, but it carried across the room like a whisper in a tomb. "Captain Blake, I recommend we avoid this system entirely." The room fell silent. Everyone turned to look at the old Vrek's commander. It was unusual for him to speak during briefings, and even more unusual for him to suggest retreat. "Commander Zethkar," Lisa said carefully, "can you explain your reasoning?" The old alien's 3 eyes blinked slowly. He seemed to be fighting some internal battle. I cannot give details, but I have fought humans before. They are not what they appear to be. When did you fight humans? Lieutenant Vextal asked. His mandibles had stopped clicking entirely. The war only started 18 months ago. Zethkar looked at the young officer for a long moment. There are things in my service record that remain classified. I can only say that underestimating humans is a mistake. Lisa frowned. This was the first time anyone had mentioned previous contact with humans. The official records showed first contact had happened 2 years ago, leading to diplomatic tensions and eventually war. Commander, if you have relevant experience, we need to know about it, Lisa said. I cannot discuss classified operations, Zethkar replied. His voice carried a finality that ended the conversation. Jake looked between Lisa and Zethkar. He sensed there was more to this story, but military discipline prevented him from pushing further. Very well, Lisa said. We will proceed with the operation as planned. The fleet will jump to Kepler 442 in 12 hours. We will demand surrender. If the humans refuse, we will destroy their ships quickly and cleanly. The other officers began discussing logistics and battle formations. Zethkar sat in silence, his 3 eyes fixed on the star map. Jake noticed that the old commander's hands were shaking slightly. As the meeting ended and officers filed out, Zethkar approached Lisa. Captain, I urge you to reconsider. Some victories are not worth the cost. Lisa studied his face. The old Vrex looked genuinely frightened, which seemed impossible. He had fought in more battles than anyone else in the fleet. Commander, you're starting to worry me. What aren't you telling us? Zethkar's eyes closed for a moment. When he opened them, they held something Lisa had never seen in him before. Fear. I pray you never have to find out, he said, and walked away. The Coalition fleet dropped out of hyperspace with the usual flash of blue light. 200 ships appeared in the darkness of the Kepler 442 system, their engines glowing like stars against the black. Captain Lisa Blake stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching the main screen as sensors began their sweep. Contact, called out Ensign Korth from the sensor station. The young Talari officer's skin shifted from blue to purple, showing excitement. Multiple human vessels detected. They're not moving, Captain. Lisa walked closer to the main display. The human fleet floated in space around a massive asteroid, just as their intelligence had predicted. But something felt wrong. The ships were arranged too perfectly, too quietly. How many vessels? Lisa asked. 34 ships total, Korth replied. Mix of colony ships, transports, and what looked like escort frigates. But Captain, their power signatures are very low. Minimal life support. No weapons charging. Commander. Orthwan moved his forearms in confusion. This makes no sense. Why would they shut down their systems with an enemy fleet approaching? Jake Morrison studied the display from his position at the tactical station. The human ships formed a loose circle around the asteroid, but not like any military formation, he recognized. The larger ships were spaced evenly with smaller vessels filling the gaps between them. It looked almost ceremonial. Captain, Jake said slowly, I think they might be conducting a funeral. The alien officers turned to look at him. Lieutenant Vextal's mandibles clicked with curiosity. A funeral? In space? Humans sometimes hold memorial services for fallen soldiers, Jake explained. When they can't recover the bodies, they use empty space and special ceremonies, Lisa nodded. Lisa. This matched what their cultural experts had told them about human customs. Many species had similar traditions, though most preferred to conduct them on planets or space stations. Open a channel, Lisa ordered. The communications officer, a Harani, with silver skin, worked at her console. Channel open, Captain. Human vessels. This is Captain Lisa Blake of the Galactic Coalition Fleet. You are surrounded and outnumbered. Surrender immediately and you will be treated according to galactic law. For several minutes there was no response. The human ships continued to drift in their strange formation. Some of the Coalition officers began to fidget. The silence felt heavy and wrong. Finally, a voice came through the speakers. It was calm and clear, with the accent Jake remembered from Earth's northern regions. Coalition Fleet, this is Admiral Susan Carter of the Colonial Defense Force. We are conducting final rites for our fallen comrades. You may observe if you wish, but any interference will not be tolerated. The bridge fell quiet. Several alien officers exchanged glances. They had expected demands for mercy or angry threats or desperate bargaining. They had not expected to be told they could observe, but not interfere. Admiral Carter, Lisa replied, you are in no position to make demands. Surrender now or face the consequences. Captain Blake, the human voice remained steady. We will complete our ceremony. Then we will discuss terms. Until that time, we ask that you respect our traditions as we would respect yours. Lisa looked around the bridge. Her officers seemed as confused as she felt. The humans were acting like they had some kind of authority in this situation, like they were the ones in control. Sensors show no weapons activity, reported Ensign Korth. Their ships are barely maintaining life support. I'm reading maybe 20% power across their entire fleet. Commander Orthwan's forearms gestured at the display. This is ridiculous. They're trying to buy time. We should attack now while they're defenseless. But Lisa hesitated. Something in Admiral Carter's voice bothered her. The human had sounded completely calm. Not afraid, not desperate, just patient. In the corner of the bridge, Commander Zethkar watched the human formation with his 3 eyes. His old hands gripped the railing so tightly that his knuckles had turned white. Lisa noticed his breathing had become faster. Commander Zethkar, she said quietly. What do you think? The old Virex turned to look at her. His scarred face showed an expression she had never seen before. Captain, we should leave now. Leave? Lieutenant Vextal's mandibles clicked with disbelief. We have them surrounded. They have no weapons, no shields, no way to escape. Why would we leave? Zethkar's 3 eyes never left the display. Because this is exactly what they want us to think. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. He looked more carefully at the human formation. The ships were positioned around the asteroid in what looked like a random pattern, but the more he studied it, the more he saw subtle signs of organization. Captain, Jake said, maybe we should listen to Commander Zethkar. Something doesn't feel right about this. What doesn't feel right? Lisa asked. They're sitting in space with their engines off and no weapons active. It's the perfect time to capture them. On the main screen, they could see small objects being launched from the human ships toward the asteroid. The objects moved slowly, drifting through space like floating coffins. Those must be the memorial containers, said Commander Orthwan. Many species use similar ceremonies for honoring the dead. Admiral Carter's voice came through the speakers again. Captain Blake, we appreciate your patience. Our ceremony will be complete in approximately 10 minutes. The containers carry the names and memories of those we have lost in this war. Lisa watched the small objects drift toward the asteroid. There were dozens of them, launched from different ships at different times. They seemed to be targeting specific points on the asteroid's surface. Very well, Admiral Carter, Lisa replied. We will wait. But when your ceremony is finished, you will surrender without conditions. Thank you for your understanding, Carter said. Her voice still carried that strange calm. Death is something all species must face. We honor those who gave their lives so that others might live. More objects launched from the human ships. The asteroid was large, perhaps 10 kilometers across, and covered with craters and rough terrain. The memorial containers were disappearing into the shadows on its surface. Commander Zethkar's breathing became even more labored. He gripped the railing harder and closed his 3 eyes. Commander, Lisa said, are you feeling well? No, Zethkar whispered. I am remembering things I tried to forget. Jake watched the old alien with growing concern. Something was clearly wrong, but Zethkar refused to explain his fears. On the display, the last of the memorial containers reached the asteroid. For a moment, everything was perfectly still. The human ships floated motionless in their formation. The coalition fleet waited in the darkness beyond. Ceremony complete, Admiral Carter announced. Thank you for allowing us to honor our dead properly. Now you will surrender, Lisa said firmly. There was a pause. When Admiral Carter spoke again, her voice had changed. The calm was still there, but underneath it was something else. Something cold and final. Captain Blake, the human admiral said, you interrupted our funeral. Now you can join them. Before anyone on the Coalition bridge could react, the asteroid began to crack. The asteroid split apart like a broken egg. Massive chunks of rock flew in all directions, spinning slowly in the darkness of space. But something was wrong. The pieces moved too smoothly, too controlled. This was not a natural break. Captain, Lisa Blake stared at the main screen in shock. What just happened? Ensign Korth's hands flew over his sensor controls. His blue skin had turned pale purple with fear. Captain, the memorial containers were not containers. They were mining charges. Powerful ones. Mining charges? Lisa's voice rose in disbelief. But they said it was a funeral ceremony. Jake Morrison suddenly understood. His face went white as the truth hit him. It was both, he said quietly. They were mourning their dead and preparing a trap at the same time. Before anyone could respond, Commander Zethkar grabbed Lisa's arm with surprising strength. His 3 eyes were wide with terror. All ships retreat now, get us out of here. Commander, what are you talking about? Lisa pulled away from his grip. The asteroid is breaking up. We can capture the human ships easily now. But even as she spoke, something new appeared on the sensors. The broken pieces of asteroid were not empty rock. Hidden inside the massive space rock had been dozens of small ships. Human fighters and torpedo boats were emerging from the debris, their engines coming online with bright flashes of light. Impossible, whispered Lieutenant Vextal. His mandibles had stopped clicking entirely. How long were they hiding in there? Jake watched the swarm of human ships spread out like angry insects. Weeks, maybe months. They hollowed out that asteroid and waited inside it. No life support running. No engines. Just waiting in the cold and dark. More surprises came quickly. The human ships that had seemed helpless and damaged suddenly blazed with power. Hidden weapons ports opened along their hulls. Shield generators that had appeared broken flickered to life. The entire human formation transformed from a funeral procession into a battle fleet in seconds. Red alert, Lisa shouted. All ships, battle stations. But the Coalition fleet was spread out in a loose observation formation. They had approached expecting to accept a surrender, not fight a battle. The human ships were already in perfect attack positions. Admiral Carter's voice came through the speakers again. Now it carried no warmth at all. Her words were cold as space itself. Coalition fleet, you have 2 choices. Surrender immediately, or learn why humans do not forgive interruptions of sacred ceremonies. The first wave of human fighters struck the Coalition ships before Lisa could give orders to return fire. The small human vessels moved like nothing the aliens had ever seen. They twisted and turned in impossible directions, dodging weapons fire. That should have destroyed them easily. They're not flying normal attack patterns, called out the tactical officer. Our targeting computers cannot predict their movements. Jake knew why. Human pilots trained differently than other species. They learned to fly by instinct, by feeling, not by following programmed courses. Every human pilot was different, unpredictable. The larger human ships began their attack as well. But they did not charge forward like most species would. Instead, they moved with careful precision, targeting specific Coalition vessels with devastating accuracy. They're not trying to destroy our entire fleet, Jake realized. They're picking targets, taking out our command ships first. He was right. The humans concentrated their fire on Coalition cruisers and destroyers, the ships that controlled smaller groups of vessels. When a command ship died, the ships under its control became confused and easier to destroy. Commander Orthwan was trying to coordinate the defense with his forearms working at different control panels. This makes no sense. Humans are supposed to be chaotic fighters. This is perfect military organization. No, Jake said grimly. This is what humans call organized chaos. They plan the trap perfectly. then let each pilot and ship captain improvise within that plan. The human torpedo boats were the most frightening. They moved in small groups, appearing from behind asteroids and debris to fire their weapons at close range. Coalition ships tried to target them, but the small vessels disappeared back into the rocks before return fire could reach them. Commander Zethkar had not moved from his position at the bridge railing. His old hands shook as he watched the battle unfold. "It is happening again," he whispered. "Just like before." Lisa heard him over the noise of battle. "Before? Commander, what do you mean before?" But there was no time for answers. A human cruiser was approaching their flagship directly. Its weapons were charging for what looked like a killing blow. "Evasive maneuvers," Lisa ordered. "Return fire." The Coalition flagship turned to avoid the attack, but the human ship had predicted the movement. Its weapons fire struck exactly where. The alien ship moved to, not where it had been. How did they know? Lieutenant Vextal's voice cracked with fear. How did they know where we would go? Jake watched the tactical display with growing understanding. Because they study us. Every battle, every engagement, they learn how we think, how we move, how we react to threats. The human fighters were regrouping for another attack when something even more disturbing happened. Several Coalition ships tried to surrender by powering down their weapons and shields. It was the standard way to show defeat in galactic warfare. The human ships destroyed them anyway. "They're not taking prisoners," Jake said in horror. "They're killing everyone who surrenders." Admiral Carter's voice came through the communications again. "Surrender was offered before the battle began. That offer has expired. All Coalition vessels will be destroyed." Lisa stared at the display in shock. Every civilized species took prisoners in war. It was basic military law throughout the galaxy, but the humans were treating this like a fight to the death. "Captain," Ensign Korth reported, his voice shaking, "we've lost 40% of our fleet. The humans have lost maybe 5 ships. The numbers were impossible. The Coalition had started with 200 ships against 34 human vessels. But the human trap had been perfect, and their attack was devastating in its efficiency." "Commander," Zethkar finally spoke above the noise of battle alarms. His voice was barely a whisper, but everyone on the bridge heard him clearly. "Captain Blake, I must tell you something about humans. Something I should have said before we came here." Lisa turned to look at him. The old Vrex commander looked like he had aged years in the past few minutes. His 3 eyes held a pain that went deeper than physical injury. "Tell me," Lisa said. Zethkar closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, they held the weight of terrible knowledge. "We created them," he said. 25 years ago, my people found Earth. The humans were primitive. No space travel, no advanced weapons. We thought we could help them, guide them, control them." He paused as another Coalition ship exploded on the main screen. "We gave them the technology to reach the stars. We thought it would make them grateful. We thought it would make them civilized." Jake felt ice form in his stomach. "What happened?" Commander Zethkar looked at the human ships tearing apart the Coalition fleet with ruthless efficiency. "We learned that some species should never be given the tools of war, because they already knew how to use them better than anyone else in the galaxy. The Coalition fleet was dying around them. Explosions lit up the darkness as human fighters tore through their formations like wolves hunting sheep. Captain Lisa Blake watched her sensors count the losses while Commander Zethkar's words echoed in her mind. "You gave them the technology?" Lisa asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Your people created this?" Zethkar nodded slowly. His 3 eyes never left the tactical display where red dots marked destroyed Coalition ships. 25 years ago I was young, foolish. We found Earth during a routine exploration mission. Another Coalition cruiser exploded on the main screen. The human ships moved through the debris field with deadly precision, hunting down escape pods and rescue ships. No mercy, no prisoners. The humans were so primitive, Zethkar continued. They had barely reached their own moon. Their weapons were simple chemical explosives. We thought they were harmless. Jake Morrison turned from his station. What changed your mind? We studied them first. Standard procedure for any new species. Zethkar's voice carried the weight of old regret. We recorded their communications, watched their behavior, learned about their history. The old Vrex. Commander paused as a human torpedo boat destroyed a coalition destroyer with a single shot to its reactor core. The explosion was perfectly calculated to cause maximum damage. What we found should have made us leave immediately, but we were curious. We had never encountered a species like humans before. What made them different? Lisa asked, though part of her already knew the answer. Every intelligent species in the galaxy follows the same pattern, Zethkar explained. They develop agriculture, then cities, then technology. Somewhere during this process, they stop fighting wars against their own kind. They realize that cooperation is better than conflict. A squadron of human fighters swept past the flagship's viewports. Their movements were fluid and graceful, like dancers performing a deadly ballet. But their weapons fire was precise and merciless. Humans were different, Zethkar said. They never stopped fighting each other. Even as they developed advanced technology, they continued to wage war against other humans. We found records of thousands of conflicts throughout their history. Jake felt sick to his stomach. He knew human history, but hearing it described by an alien observer made it sound even worse. So you decided to help them anyway? The Vrex High Council made a decision, Zethkar replied. They believed that humans could be guided, civilized. If we gave them access to the stars, they would learn to be peaceful like other species. Lieutenant Vextel's mandibles clicked weakly. That makes no sense. Why would you give advanced weapons to a violent species? Because we thought violence was just a phase, Zethkar said. We believed that once humans saw how large the galaxy was, how many other species existed, they would put aside their primitive urges to fight. On the tactical display, the human ships were regrouping for another attack. They moved with the coordination of a single organism, each ship knowing exactly where the others would be. We were wrong, Zethkar continued. Terribly, horribly wrong. What happened when you made contact? Lisa asked. At first, everything seemed to go according to plan. We approached Earth peacefully. We offered to share our technology in exchange for friendship and cooperation. The humans accepted eagerly. Commander Orthwan worked frantically at his console, trying to organize the remaining coalition ships into a defensive formation. How many of our ships are left? 63, reported Ensign Korth. His voice shook with fear. The humans still have 28 vessels operational. The numbers were impossible. The coalition had started with overwhelming superiority. Now they were fighting for survival. We gave them everything, Zethkar said. Faster than light travel, energy weapons, artificial intelligence, medical technology. We thought we were creating allies. But they turned it into weapons, Jake said. It was not a question. Not immediately. For the first few years, humans used our gifts exactly as we intended. They explored space, they built colonies, they seemed to be becoming civilized. A group of human ships approached the flagship from 3 different directions. Their attack pattern was perfect, giving the coalition vessel no way to escape. Then what changed? Lisa asked. We discovered that humans had never stopped fighting each other. Even with access to the galaxy, they continued their wars on Earth. But now they had our technology to make those wars more deadly. The human ships opened fire. The flagship's shields flared and sparked under the assault. Emergency alarms rang throughout the bridge. But that was not the worst part, Zethkar said. The worst part was how they used our gifts in ways we never imagined. What do you mean? Lisa asked while trying to coordinate their defense. We gave them medical scanners to heal the sick. They turned them into torture devices that could cause pain without leaving marks. We gave them terraforming equipment to build new worlds. They made it into weapons that could destroy entire planets. Jake felt cold spreading through his body. Everything became a weapon. Everything, Zethkar confirmed. Communication systems became tools for psychological warfare. Transportation networks became ways to move armies instantly across star systems. Even their entertainment became training. For combat, the flagship shuddered under another human attack. Their shields were failing. We tried to stop them, Zethkar said. When we realized what we had done, the Vrex High Council sent a fleet to Earth. We demanded that humans return our technology and submit to galactic law. What happened to that fleet? Lisa asked, though she already knew. They destroyed it. Every ship. Every crew member. And they did it using our own technology against us. The bridge fell silent except for the sound of alarms and the hum of failing systems. The human ships had stopped their attack, but they maintained their threatening positions around the Coalition flagship. Admiral Carter to Coalition vessel, came the familiar voice. Prepare to be boarded. You will surrender your command codes and submit to interrogation. Lisa looked at Zethkar. Is there anything else you need to tell me? Any other secrets? That might help us survive this? The old Vrex commander met her gaze with his 3 eyes. There is one more thing. The humans who destroyed our fleet 25 years ago, they were not soldiers. They were colonists, farmers and scientists and engineers who had never seen war before. Then how? Lisa asked. Because humans do not need to be taught how to fight, Zethkar said. They are born knowing how to kill. We just gave them better tools to do it with. Admiral Carter's voice came through the speakers again. You have 30 seconds to comply. After that, we will take your ship by force. Lisa looked around the bridge at her surviving crew. They were beaten, and they all knew it. Commander Zethkar, she said quietly, is there any way to stop them? The old alien was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice carried the weight of 25 years of guilt and fear. Captain Blake, we did not just give humans the technology to reach the stars. We gave the stars to the most dangerous species in the galaxy. And now they are coming for everyone. The human boarding ships attached to the Coalition flagship with metallic clangs that echoed through the hull. Captain Lisa Blake watched her tactical display show the last of her fleet being captured or destroyed. 63 ships had become, 12 in less than an hour. They're cutting through the airlocks, reported Ensign Korth. His blue skin had turned almost white with fear. Hull breach in sections 4 and 7. Lisa looked at Commander Zethkar. The old Vrex stood quietly, at his station, his 3 eyes closed as if in prayer. Commander, is there anything else about humans I should know before they get here? Zethkar opened his eyes slowly. Captain, what I am about to tell you will sound impossible, but you must understand the full truth about what my people created. The sound of cutting tools grew louder. Human soldiers would be aboard their ship, within minutes. After the humans destroyed our first fleet, we sent observers to watch Earth secretly. We needed to understand how they had become so dangerous so quickly. Zethkar's voice was barely above a whisper. What we discovered was worse than we imagined. Worse how? Jake Morrison asked. He had been quiet since the battle began, but now his face showed deep concern. Humans had not just adapted our technology. They had improved it, made it more efficient, more deadly. Weapons that took us centuries to develop, they perfected in decades. Lieutenant Vextal's mandibles clicked weakly. That's impossible. No, species learns that fast. Most species learn by studying and testing, Zethkar explained. Humans learn by fighting. Every battle teaches them something new. Every defeat makes them stronger. The cutting sound stopped. Silence filled the bridge for a moment before they heard the heavy footsteps of human soldiers in the corridors. But the technology was only part of it. Zethkar continued urgently. The real horror was discovering that humans never stopped fighting each other. Even after gaining access to the galaxy, they continued their wars on Earth. What do you mean? Lisa asked. While building colonies on distant worlds, humans were still fighting conflicts on their home planet. They tested new weapons against each other. They used alien technology to make their own wars more deadly. Jake felt sick understanding the truth. We used your gifts to get better at killing ourselves. Yes, and every human who survived those conflicts became a better soldier. The Colonial Defense Force is not just Earth's military. It is an army made up of survivors from 1,000 different wars. The bridge doors opened with a hiss. Human soldiers in black armor entered with weapons ready. Their movements were careful and professional. These were not the primitive fighters the aliens had expected to face. A woman in an officer's uniform followed the soldiers. She was tall and thin, with gray hair and cold blue eyes. The rank insignia on her collar marked her as Admiral Susan Carter. "Captain Blake," Admiral Carter said politely, "I am sorry about your losses. War is always tragic." Lisa stared at the human admiral. After the brutal efficiency of the battle, Carter's calm politeness felt disturbing. "You destroyed ships that tried to surrender. You killed helpless crews." "Yes," Carter replied without emotion. "That is how humans fight wars. We do not take prisoners from enemies who threaten our survival." "But we're not trying to destroy humanity," Lisa protested. "This is a territorial dispute, a border conflict." Admiral Carter smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Captain, you misunderstand the situation. This is not a border conflict. This is a war for the survival of the human species." "Commander," Orthwan gestured with all four arms, "how can you say that? The Coalition only wants to establish trade routes and mining rights." "The Coalition wants to limit human expansion," Carter replied. "You want to control which worlds we can colonize and which technologies we can develop. That is the same as trying to destroy us." Zethkar stepped forward slowly. "Admiral Carter, my name is Commander Zethkar of the Vrex Republic. I was part of the first contact mission to Earth 25 years ago." Carter turned to look at him. Her expression did not change, but something cold passed through her eyes. "Commander Zethkar, we remember you. Then you know that my people meant no harm. We tried to help humanity." "Yes," Carter said. "You gave us the tools to reach the stars, and then you tried to take them away when you realized what we would do with them." "We only wanted to prevent more violence," Zethkar said desperately. "We thought humans could learn to be peaceful." Admiral Carter was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice carried a finality that chilled everyone on the bridge. "Commander, you made one critical mistake. You assumed that because other species stopped fighting among themselves, humans would do the same. You did not understand that for humans, war is not a failure of civilization. It is how civilization survives." Jake looked at his former species with new understanding. "You never stopped fighting because you never could afford to stop." "Exactly," Carter said. "Every human generation faces new threats, new challenges, new enemies. Those who forget how to fight do not survive to have children. War is not something we do. It is what we are." Lisa felt a deep chill settling in her bones. "So when you gained access to the galaxy, we brought that reality with us," Carter finished. "We did not stop being human when we left Earth. We simply found new challenges to overcome. And new enemies to fight," Zethkar said quietly. Admiral Carter nodded. "The Vrex were our first teachers. You showed us that the galaxy was full of species who would try to control us, limit us, cage us. You taught us that survival required strength." She walked to the bridge windows and looked out at the wreckage of the Coalition fleet. "Every species we have encountered has tried to make humans fit into their idea of civilization. They want us to be peaceful traders, cooperative colonists, obedient citizens of some galactic government." "What's wrong with peace?" Lisa asked. Carter turned back to face them. "Nothing. But peace for humans can only exist when we are strong enough to protect ourselves, when no one dares to threaten our survival." "So you'll fight everyone?" Lieutenant Vextal asked. "If necessary," Carter replied. "Humans have learned that the price of weakness is extinction. We will never be weak again." Commander Zethkar closed his three eyes in defeat. "We created monsters." "No," Admiral Carter said firmly. "You revealed monsters. Humans were always what we are. You just gave us the tools to show the galaxy our true nature." She gestured to her soldiers, who moved to escort the alien officers away. "Captain Blake, you and your crew will be taken to a human colony world. You will be given comfortable quarters and all necessary care. You will also be given the opportunity to learn about human culture and history." "Why?" Lisa asked. Because when this war is over, someone will need to explain to the galaxy why humans won. Why they could never have won any other way. Carter's voice carried absolute certainty. You will tell them that humans do not fight wars to conquer or to enslave. We fight wars to survive. And we have become very, very good at surviving. As the alien officers were led away, Admiral Carter stood alone on the bridge. She looked out at the stars and spoke quietly to herself. Commander Zethkar was right about one thing. His people did give the stars to humanity. But they were wrong about what humanity would do with them. She touched a control panel, and her voice carried throughout the human fleet. All ships, prepare for the next phase. Send word to Earth Command. The Coalition's main fleet has been neutralized. We can begin advancing toward their home systems. In the darkness of space, the human ships moved like predators, sensing wounded prey. The galaxy was about to learn what humanity had always known. The strong survive. The weak become history.